Hi there, my name is Tom Bell, and welcome to my 5 Minute Friday videocast on the 28th of March. I think this might take slightly more than 5 minutes. So, a quick word about who I am. I'm an author, I'm a consultant, I'm an educator, I'm a speaker, and a trainer. Not in the areas that I'm going to talk about, I'm just an interested party in those. But I've been prompted to do something a bit different this Friday because let me paint the picture for you. Yeah? So, last week I'm on Facebook and I saw a video that one of my friends had posted entitled English Lioness. Yeah? In which a lady called Katie Fanning was really venting her spleen in what looked like an effort to drum up some anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant sentiment. Yeah, and the next day I came across a video of someone called Darren Grimes who was trying to tell us all that illegal immigration is going to be the end of us. We're all doomed. Then, in what I actually thought was an ironic spoof video, another friend posted their support for an anti-immigrant protest march in Ireland. Do you know what I thought? I thought, bullshit. I thought, how have the people I grew up with in this small town become convinced that the thing that will change this country and make their lives better is to stop people coming across the channel in small boats? How have the people I grew up with, right, in this, it's a quite frankly blessed and beautiful part of the world, somewhere a million miles from the dramas unfolding in less fortunate places on the planet, how have those people who grew up with me become convinced that their enemies are the poor and the needy? Now, the answer, of course, is that they have been convinced by others, by an endless stream of half assed, half truths, wannabe somebodies, and the wealthy and the powerful who are always happy for us to turn our attention away from them and what they are doing and their agendas and in on each other. So I thought, rather than ranting and adding more heat than light to the debate, I'll do some research and I'll share some thoughts. So here goes. So, firstly, let's deal with the march by Irish protesters demanding less migration. I mean, come on, right? The Irish have left their homeland by the million. Since 1800, it's thought just under 10 million people left Ireland in search of a better life. That's more than the current population, yeah? It's also recognised that many of them felt forced to leave due to harsh economic conditions, famine, and conflict. That has a familiar ring to it, doesn't it? It's now estimated around 70 million people around the world are descended from those same Irish immigrants. They set up communities, they built many Catholic churches, they established businesses, they made new lives, and they brought diversity and difference to many countries. Should they all go back now? I mean, to hear someone saying, even in a wonderful Irish lilt, that they feel threatened by the presence of immigrants when they've lived alongside the Irish Republican Army and through the Troubles is beyond ironic. And should we then slag off all the Brits who've gone looking for better lives in other parts of the world? You know, perhaps the ones who went to Spain and won't eat anything other than a full English breakfast washed down with a pint of John Smith's, because they're really embedding themselves in the culture of their chosen foreign country, aren't they? And they didn't leave the UK with the threat of death, a gun, or extreme poverty at their back, yeah? And do you know what? Most of you who criticise the people coming into the UK on boats, you wouldn't have the courage or resilience to do what they are doing. Now to our English lioness and her fans. So, in Katie's well rehearsed monologue, which looks like it was filmed against a backdrop of folks auditioning as extras for the League of Gentlemen, contains numerous references to my people. Quit right there, Katie. We are not your people. We're not your people. And the vast majority of us have no wish to ever be, right? She then goes on to talk about the rape of 1 million white girls by Muslims, a claim for which, by the way, there doesn't appear to be a shred of evidence, and a claim which ignores the wider context that women are seen as inferior and abused and raped by men of every colour and creed and have been since 1066. Rape of any kind by any creed is abhorrent. Shall we just be against rape and the abuse of all peoples? That would make more sense to me. And let's also take a moment, right, just to remind ourselves that the most violent gangs operating in the Western world and trafficking in God knows what are largely white, Caucasian, Italian, Albanian, Russian. And the most violent gangs in the history of the UK were white, and they traded in and profited massively from forced prostitution. Yes, there may be Asian grooming gangs, nobody's denying that, but they probably share spaces on the dark web with all the other scumbags and nonces who trade in human misery. And as for the claim that every Muslim wants Sharia law in the UK, that's a bit like saying every Catholic priest is dodgy and every Christian wants us all to dress like the Amish and ride around in a horse and cart. It's total bollocks. Now a quick word about the economy to fans of Katie. It wasn't Allah who stripped the UK of its manufacturing base and sold our public services to the highest bidder, yeah? That was the unprincipled face of corporate greed and dear old Maggie Thatcher. Yes, I will wash my mouth out after this. Nor was it the imam that decimated our high streets. That was you and I, yeah? We're complicit in that. That was you and I in partnership with Jeff Bezos and Amazon. And it's not immigrants or the Muslim community that raised the price of a pint or a smoke. That was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. It's not the people coming here in search of a new life that are costing the country a fortune and forcing cuts to benefits and public services, education, healthcare, and infrastructure. That's the likes of Howard Schultz of Starbucks and a host of other companies who make and take huge profits from doing business in the UK. Apple, Amazon, Adobe, some of the online gambling companies, and then do everything they can to avoid paying tax on their profits. Tax avoidance and evasion costs the UK around 8 billion a year. Yeah, the folks ripping you off are precisely those telling you who you should be wary of, like that tax dodging dick in charge of the Daily Mail who wants you to focus on anything other than the things that really matter. We should be shouting louder, yeah, about the scandal of public services, get my teeth in, than about stopping the boats. Things that we owned, you and I, were sold to private profiteers. We should be angry at the people making money from increasing the cost of providing water to our mums, our dads, and the cost of providing water to our local hospitals, yeah? My local hospital in North Cumbria, the cost of providing water to that has gone up over £100,000 a year, right? You and I foot the bill for that, yeah? And the housing benefit that's paid to private landlords that ends up in the pocket of private landlords, yeah, exceeds £40 billion each year in this country. And a couple of years ago, the public purse, if you haven't remembered, spent £369 million refurbishing Buckingham Palace. If ever there was somewhere that they should have filmed a programme or a series called Benefit Street, that's where it should have been, yeah? And if you should become tempted to slag benefit claimants off and you have kids, then before having a pop at people for taking money from the public purse, ask yourself why taxpayers should pay any form of benefits to people just because they have children. 12.5 billion a year paid out in child-related benefits. Yeah. The recruitment and retention crisis that we see in health and social care, that's because the whinging, taking our jobs, stealing our housing crowd won't take the jobs wiping their own grandparents' arses in the local care home. You can't have it all ways. The huge and unprecedented levels of legal, not illegal migration that have occurred since Brexit. Remember Brexit, yeah, where people who couldn't take control of their own lives were told they could take back control of the country, scam victims essentially. Those huge levels of official migration into the UK that you now see, they're being driven by NHS trusts and healthcare services and care home providers actively recruiting people from abroad. You might have voted for Brexit, but what you got is an unrestrained pile-in, yeah? The folks coming over here on boats are a fraction, less than 1/20th of the total levels of migration to this country, less than 1/20th, yeah? You know, are none of us ashamed that the country we call Great Britain now has nearly 3,000 food banks, more per head than any other country? That's probably worth shouting about a bit more. So, if I've got you thinking, maybe I have, maybe I haven't, what can you do? Well, you can start by spending half an hour if you can, on YouTube, listening, really listening to people like Noam Chomsky. If he's too boring for you, you can try Joe Strummer. Leave your assumptions behind. Acknowledge that there's always something to learn. Do your research and then step into the debate. Don't get angry, get up to speed, get informed, add some insight, add some value to the debate. And if you're reading that paper called the Daily Mail and getting your views from a rag owned by the tax exile Lord Rothermere, take a minute to look in the mirror and ask yourself honestly, is the person who owns and ultimately controls that newspaper thinking about you and your best interests, or themselves and their rich, entitled peers? It's as simple as that. If you believe they're thinking about you and have your best interests at heart, then please carry on reading. And Carry On is the most appropriate name because it's a comedy and the joke is on its readers. Last but not least, please stop using the term woke, right, left wing, labelling the entire breadth and depth of human thinking and humanity and theory with a single word is just lazy thinking. All of us are worth so much more than just a label. If you've listened, thank you for listening. Ciao.